Hey guys, hope you already watched the Apple event and you guys already know what's available at the Apple event. But if you don't know what's available, then there are not one, there are not two, there are three MacBooks available at not MacBooks exactly, three Macs available at the Apple event. They announced three Macs. Number one is the MacBook Air 13.3 inch, the MacBook Pro 13 inch, and the another one was the Mac Mini. All of them are pretty exciting. By the way, I'm really into that MacBook Air because it's been 3 or 4 months or so that I'm really into that MacBook Air. I just want to buy the MacBook. I was thinking to buy the MacBook Pro 16 inch. It was pretty expensive, but with this new Apple's M1 processors, these MacBooks are pretty inexpensive and they are so much powerful. Like 3 or 4 months back, I was thinking to purchase the MacBook Pro 16 inch or the MacBook Pro 13 inch higher variant, but that was costing me nearly around $2,000 plus. But right now, if I buy the MacBook Air with M1 processor, Apple Silicon, it would be more than enough for me. The MacBook Air can edit 4K raw footage, like 2 or 3 streams of 4K raw footage. What else do I need? Pretty much these are the things I'm really into looking forward. This MacBook Air is the product that I was dreaming basically. Anyway, not only the MacBook Air, there are 3 MacBooks. I'm not going to talk about every MacBook exactly separately here in this video because then this video could get very long. I'll make dedicated single video about every Mac because I'm really into these MacBooks. Pretty much all the leaks and rumors are suggesting that we would be able to see the A14X or the A14Z processors, but Apple slapped every leaks and every rumors and they told that hold your A14X or A14Z rumors, we're gonna bring the M1 processor. And this M1 processor is so exciting. There are so many things. Let me give you an overview of the M1 processor. This M1 processor slash Apple Silicon M1 chipset is one of the best in class. This Apple's M1 chipset is one of the best on the market for the value. This M1 chipset is industry leading fast 5nm personal computing MacBook or personal computing laptop chipset that's 5nm, and it's based on Apple's own developed architecture that they have been using on the A14 chipset. That's why it is pretty exciting. Okay, let's talk about the M1 processor. The M1 chipset is one of the best in class and I feel that the M1 processor is going to be the next future generation. Before going into the specifications, let me talk about the general overview and my thoughts about the M1 chipset. Previously, the MacBook Pro 16 inch performing very well with Intel Core i9, but you can expect pretty much same amount of performance, a little lower than that, but pretty much same amount neck and neck performance of that Core i9 chipset on this M1 processor by Apple. And that means you're going to get much cheaper chipset with pretty much the same amount of performance of Intel. And what else do you need? It is more than enough for pretty much every people's life. The MacBook Air is not sharing a fan, and it was very exciting. At first I was thinking that there would be fans, but it went totally fanless. The MacBook Air doesn't have a fan. Oh, it was pretty hot. I was thinking like this basic MacBook that I personally use on my day-to-day life, the 2017 MacBook Air, has a fan. Even after that it gets pretty warm, but Apple is not putting a new fan on their MacBook, and I'll be doing the review of that MacBook ASAP because I'm really into that MacBook. Anyhow, I wanna buy that one because that is a lifesaver. Anyway, I'm talking about the MacBook Air, Apple Silicon so much because I'm really into that thing. Next thing about this 5nm architecture, Apple Silicon M1 chipset is the Thunderbolt USB 4 controller chipset. That means this can natively support 5K, I think 5K and also 6K output with HDMI port or this Thunderbolt port. That means it can support pretty much most of the 6K or Apple's own HDR display that's I think called, I don't know, that cheese grater display. It's just pretty expensive. I just don't want to talk about that thing because the pocket is pretty important and that thing is pretty expensive. Yep. Anyway, the next one is the transistors. This M1 chipset is providing 16 billion transistors, 16 billion, and the GPU operations are so huge. Like the numbers, I can't count the numbers. The computers can't even count the numbers. That's how much it is providing. Anyway, now let's talk about the next thing, that is the ISP. I think this is the time Apple is providing image signal processor on their chipset, and this chipset is going to be so powerful with their ISP, and that is the reason whenever you use the FaceTime calling system, this video recording capability or the calling capability is going to be much better. It also has facial recognition. That's the reason whenever you're in a video call or in a conference, then people can hear and see you much better. Okay, the next one is unified memory architecture, and that's the reason pretty much everything is going to be much faster. The thing is, this is not actually a processor. The M1 is not a processor. The M1 is a SoC. It is a system on chip. It's not a single processor. Pretty much the GPU, the CPU, the ISP, everything is on a single motherboard or single board, single piece of a chipset, like the A14 or the A12 or the A13 chipset. This M1 is that kind of chipset that has pretty much everything inbuilt, and that is the reason the processing power is going to be much faster, because they don't have to go so much further to collect the data. They can collect the data from a single place, and that is the only one reason why this is so much faster and so much efficient. The efficient thing is pretty important. The efficiency comes where the battery also comes, because the more efficient your Mac goes, the more efficient your processor goes, the more better your battery life gets. This M1 chipset can produce the most amount of performance with the lowest amount of wattage. That means it can produce you so great performance with very little and minimum amount of battery uses. That means you will be getting so much better battery life. Let me talk about the MacBook Air's battery life performance. The MacBook Air will be able to give you up to 18 hours of battery life, and the MacBook Pro will be able to give you up to 20 hours of battery life, and it is huge, 10 hours more than previously. Previously the MacBook Pro 13-inch was providing 10 hours of battery life. This time the MacBook Pro 13-inch with this M1 chipset is going to provide you 20 hours of battery life, and 20 hours of battery life is not like, I don't know, you can expect the thing. Anyway, the next one is the neural engine. This M1 chipset is going to provide you 16 core neural engine that's super powerful. Basically the neural engines are a thing like a machine learning or artificial intelligence kind of things. This neural engine, I think I don't need to explain you the thing, you can pretty much understand. The more neural engine cores you have, the much faster your computing power is going to be. That's why this 16 core neural engine is going to help you so much, and the power is going to get radically huge and humongous. Okay, the next one is the CPU core. This M1 chipset is sharing maximum up to 18 core of CPU and 18 core of GPU. By the way, these all things are built into that M1 small chipset, not even a bigger like separated parts. All of these things are into one SoC. That's the reason they don't need to fly through one place to another place in order to collect data. They can get all the data from that simple and small chipset. And what else do you need? All these things combined are going to process amazing data, give you amazing power, and I don't need to explain you the thing. This Apple Silicon is like the fast one. This is the generation 1, not the generation 2. This is the fast Apple Silicon for Macs, the fast one, and the fast one is providing one of the best in class performance. Then you can expect the future is going to be so bright. That's the thing about the M1 chipset and the MacBook Air, the MacBook Pro, and there are the Mac Mini. Basically the Mac Mini and the 13-inch MacBook Pro are pretty much same. The Mac Mini doesn't have a battery, but the Mac Mini is going to give you 60% more efficiency. Pretty much that were the things announced on this Apple event: the MacBook Air, new MacBook Pro, and the Mac Mini. I'll be making dedicated video about this M1 chipset, the MacBook Air, MacBook Pro, and the Mac Mini, because these were one of the most hottest thing in this last 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 years, I don't know, but it was pretty exciting. At first I was thinking about the iPhone 12 Pro Max. I thought that was the one of the most exciting thing, but right now the MacBook Air is the most exciting thing for me personally. Let me know into the comment section what's your thought about these things, because I'm really excited. I think you guys are also really excited. If you're watching the video, be sure to thumbs up, be sure to stay tuned and subscribe the channel to get more update about these products. Anyway, that is all. Goodbye.